Martin, driver of the Fireball Camaro. We're here at the 2018 PRI show. Camaro is a 2010 Camaro SS.
The story opens with a moment that shook the racing world to its core. Investigators walked toward the trailer of Ryan Martin, the unstoppable force behind the Fireball Camaro. The champion fans worshipped on Street Outlaws and no prep kings. But when authorities pulled open that metal door, they didn't find tools, parts, or trophies. They found something so shocking, so unimaginable. It shattered everything people believed about him. This wasn't a routine search, this was the moment a legend's image collapsed. What investigators uncovered inside that trailer didn't just start rumors. It ignited a storm. And once you see what they found, you'll never look at Ryan Martin the same way again. For years, Ryan Martin had dominated the racing scene. His name wasn't just respected, it was feared. Drivers whispered about his precision, his consistency, and the almost scientific way he handled the Fireball Camaro. He had built an empire of speed, earning championships in no prep kings, millions of dollars in net worth, and hundreds of thousands of loyal followers online. But with great success comes great scrutiny. People wondered how one man could remain undefeated for so long. They questioned what he knew that others didn't. And when investigators began unraveling his movements, they realized something was off. The investigation didn't begin with flashing lights or dramatic raids. It started quietly, with anonymous tips slipping into the hands of authorities. At first, officers dismissed them as jealousy-driven attacks. After all, anyone standing at the top of a competitive sport is often the subject of rumors. But the tips didn't stop. They grew more specific, more detailed, and harder to ignore. One message mentioned that Ryan's racing trailer was carrying cargo unrelated to performance parts or racing equipment. Another hinted that his travel patterns didn't match the schedule he appeared to follow publicly. Law enforcement kept listening, and then they started watching. They followed the trailer, not the man. From Oklahoma City to states across the country, the trailer made stops that had nothing to do with racetracks or auto shops. Investigators compared its location data with the posts Ryan made on social media. None of it matched. There were times when the trailer was hundreds of miles away from where Ryan claimed to be. The routes made no sense for a racer traveling between events. Something was wrong, and the more authorities tracked, the deeper the mystery became. After months of gathering evidence, they finally decided it was time for a search. They waited for the perfect moment when the trailer sat unattended in a parking lot, far from BNR Performance, Ryan's shop. When investigators arrived, Ryan appeared calm. He shrugged and said he had nothing to hide. At first glance, everything looked exactly as expected. Organized toolboxes, neatly labeled parts, and the Fireball Camaro securely strapped in place. But seasoned investigators know how to look deeper. And that's when they spotted a tiny gap in the trailer wall. So small it would escape an untrained eye. Behind that gap was a hidden panel. And behind that panel was the truth. When officers carefully removed the wall, the first thing they saw was stacks of cash, tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands of dollars. As they continued dismantling the false wall, more evidence emerged. Waterproof containers filled with documents detailing transactions across multiple states. Unmarked phones, tablets, and hard drives sealed in protective bags. Plastic packets containing a white powdery substance. Scales and packaging materials. Illegal firearms. It was a cache so extensive and so carefully hidden that even the officers themselves paused in disbelief. They found not just one hidden compartment, but three more, each one revealing a truth darker than the last. The first held stacks of cash, clean, crisp, and meticulously organized, far more than any racer should ever have reason to hide. When investigators counted the bundles, they realized the total exceeded $300,000, all tucked away behind false walls. The second compartment was even more disturbing. Weapons no legal racer would ever need, each one stored with deliberate care, as if waiting for a purpose far beyond the racetrack. And then came the third compartment, the most damning of all. Inside were notebooks filled with coded entries, initials representing unknown associates, mapped out territories, dates, and quantities. Investigators examined the contents and instantly recognized what they were looking at. This wasn't racing. This was a logistical map of an interstate criminal enterprise. And before officers could even finish cataloging the evidence, Ryan Martin vanished. One moment he was standing there, watching the search unfold. The next, he was gone, slipped away before the reality of what investigators had uncovered could fully land. They couldn't arrest him that night due to legal limitations, But the discovery explained everything: his sudden disappearance from recent episodes of Street Outlaws, his absence from major No Prep Kings events, and the growing concern from fans who assumed he was simply working on a new build or taking a personal break. No one imagined he was running from one of the largest scandals the racing world had ever seen. As investigators dug deeper, changes rippled through BNR Performance, the shop that once buzzed with activity. A mechanic who had worked beside Ryan for years abruptly disappeared without explanation. The company's website began quietly removing pages, services erased, photo galleries wiped, testimonials deleted. It looked less like routine management and more like someone desperately trying to scrub away any digital trail. Crew members who had proudly posted photos with the Fireball Camaro started deleting them. Anything featuring Ryan, the shop, or the brand vanished from their accounts. The once loud, confident shop grew silent. Even those closest to him began to pull away. Cherish, known to the racing world as Mama Fireball, stopped posting entirely. Her social media suddenly empty of family moments and race day excitement. Javier Canals, the loyal crew chief who knew every inch of the Fireball Camaro, stayed silent. And Michael Bean, Ryan's longtime friend, disappeared from online conversations altogether. It was as if Ryan's entire inner circle was dissolving piece by piece, while the truth of what investigators found continued to unravel his world. What investigators found on the trailer electronics made the situation even clearer. The burner phones held encrypted text messages discussing packages, drops, meeting times, and shipments. Emails revealed territories and distribution chains. There were contacts known only by initials or street names. This wasn't a side job. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a structure organized, intentional, and well hidden. When investigators questioned the racing crew, most claimed total ignorance. They explained that Ryan was extremely protective of his trailer. He handled the equipment himself. He locked the trailer when it wasn't in use. He loaded and unloaded everything personally. They believed it was because he was guarding his competitive secrets. They never imagined he was guarding something else entirely. The turning point came when a man, believed to be uninvolved with Street Outlaws, walked into a police station and confessed. What stunned authorities was not his confession, but his admission that he had been blackmailed into turning himself in. When asked if he knew anything about the anonymous tips that had guided the investigation, he revealed something astonishing. He was the tipper. He had been secretly feeding information because the weight of his guilt had become unbearable. As news leaked behind the scenes, the racing community erupted with fear and denial. Some racers quickly distanced themselves, deleting photos and issuing statements condemning illegal behavior in racing. Others stayed silent, which only stirred more suspicion. Blogs and fan pages began analyzing Ryan's past victories, questioning whether his success was truly earned or funded by something else entirely. The Discovery Channel, the home of Street Outlaws, faced its own crisis. Ratings spiked from the drama, but producers had no way to move forward without the star many viewers tuned in to see. Meanwhile, Ryan's family was living through a nightmare they never saw coming. Investigators questioned Cherish again and again, pressing her about whether she had ever seen the hidden compartments, or if Ryan had ever hinted at involvement in anything suspicious. Each interrogation chipped away at the life she thought she knew. Their son, Dax, faced an even harsher reality, trying to reconcile the hero he idolized with the man now surrounded by criminal accusations. For a family once celebrated at the center of racing fame, the emotional collapse was devastating. While the Martin family struggled privately, prosecutors were moving strategically. They believed this wasn't just a one-man operation, it was a network, and taking down one person wouldn't dismantle the entire structure behind it. Ryan's attorneys began preparing for an intense legal battle, exploring every possible angle. They considered challenging the legality of the search warrant, questioning procedure, and even suggesting that Ryan was coerced or manipulated into participating. They were ready to paint him as a victim rather than a mastermind. But despite their efforts, the evidence spoke loudly. Hidden compartments, coded notebooks, burner phones, and fingerprints placed heavy weight on the case weight. Nearly impossible to escape. The fall of Ryan Martin is more than the fall of a racer. It is the fall of an icon. A man once idolized by young racers now stands as a cautionary tale. The Fireball Camaro is no longer a symbol of dominance. It is a reminder of how quickly a legacy can crumble. And now the world is left with one burning question. Why did Ryan Martin do it? Was it greed, pressure, or who he truly was all along. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: the racing world will never be the same. Like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.